about what they have done. If you recall, with Ike, shut down the West End, but Jamaica Beach opened their doors for everybody. They had the Salvation Army here, they had the American Red Cross, they had food, water, it was just amazing. So we're just delighted that we have these joint meetings. Let me introduce you to the mayor of Jamaica Beach, Clay Morris.
Thank you, everyone. Welcome. I want to thank everyone, and it's an honor to host this event every year. Not only Jamaica Beach, but all of the West End is very appreciative of the partnerships we have with Galveston County, the City of Galveston, our utility companies, and the great state of Texas and the representatives. With that being said, I would like to introduce the first speaker, and that will be Josh. State Representative Office. Where's Josh? Made it here yet? Okay, let's go to the second one, and then it will be Judge Henry had a funeral this morning. He was right in the man. We'll come in here and take it over.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be back here, doing this for a few years now. I also lived in Jamaica Beach for a little while, so I always love coming down here. Scott Fury, I'm the emergency management coordinator. As Mayor said, Judge Henry had a funeral to attend today, so we're unable to make it. But every year we always talk about really the same three things: make a plan, build a kit, and stay informed. And it's really important, right? Have your plan. What are you going to do? Where are you going to go? If the mayor, county judge do call an evacuation, right, where do you plan on going? Especially here along the coast, you're going to probably have to evacuate more than people on the mainland. So where are you going to go? So my grandfather used to tell me, Scott, families like fish. After 3 days it stinks. So make sure your family knows you're going, or your friends know you're going. And what your plan's going to be, because you may be there for a while, right? Depending on what the utility situation, the condition of your house looks like, you may not be able to come back right away. So it's just something to keep in mind. And build a plan and a kit that fits you and your family, right? We all have different needs. I have 3 young kids, so when something happens, I go to work, but if there's not something to kit for my wife to keep my kids busy, she's going to be calling, yelling at me. So got to make sure that the kids have something to do. So always have that plan, build a kit. And another thing, and I don't want to steal any thunder from Jeff from the National Weather Service later, but a great point, we were having a discussion earlier this week that he made. A lot of times we get fixated on when is landfall. The problem with that, especially along the coast, the surge is coming before that landfall is coming. So you may say, oh, I'm going to leave it a day before landfall. Well, 2 or 3 days before a landfall, you may not be able to leave because you're impacted by the surge. I know when I was living here, kind of caught me off guard a little bit, but beautiful blue sky day, and my canal's flooded. Property's flooded, and I had to take a picture. I was working somewhere else prior to the county, took a picture, sent it to the boss. Can't come in today, I'm flooded in. Here's a picture of my driveway. And if I didn't send a picture, I don't think you would believe me. But those are just some of the challenges that you face when you're in a coastal community. Right? It's a beautiful place to live, but has some unique challenges to it. And then staying informed, really following your city on social media, their website, following the county, city of Galveston, and listening to what your local officials are telling you is really important. We work very closely with the National Weather Service, with the state. We're on conference calls around the clock with them pretty much. So we're relaying that information to the citizens the best we can, giving the most accurate, up-to-date information we have. So really listening to your elected officials is extremely important. And how are you receiving those emergency notifications? And then another thing that I think a lot of us realize during the winter storm, we all depend on our cell phones pretty heavily. But when there's no power to charge your cell phone, what's your plan? So please make sure you will have a radio, either crank power radio or battery power with plenty of batteries. Because how are you going to get those emergency notifications when there's no power for a few days? And a lot of us remember how miserable and cold we were during the winter storm. Now picture today with no power. I know I'm sweating, we got some fans going, we got the main doors open. So, that's an extended period of time. So really can't stress enough, I have that plan, I have the kid that fits into your family. You have an excellent staff, your police chief and your fire chief, mayor. They've been around a while. A lot of people in the community have been around a while. So if you are new to the community, talk to them, learn from them, see what their suggestions are. Then us as jurisdictions, we're planning all year long. We're having tabletops all year long. We're trying to figure out new ways to improve different processes we have. Because the more we do that, hopefully the better we can serve you and the residents of the county. We do have a booth up with our disaster guides. We have kids guides. Please stop by and talk to us. If you have any questions, we'll be here this morning. And thank you very much again for having us.
Thank you so much, Scott. Okay, let's hear from our County Commissioner, Joe Giusti. Joe, welcome again, as usual.
Thank you, Jerry. How many of y'all, let me see a show of hands, is this your first time at this hurricane meeting? Cool, great. That's great to see that many folks coming out. A lot of times we see some of the same people over and over again, which is also great, because you can never stop learning. I'm still learning. I come to these and I learn. I was born and raised on this island. My first hurricane was Carly. Been here ever since. Come in for storms. I live in Santa Fe, but it's crazy because when there's a storm, I move to Galveston for the storm. Go figure. If I had the leisure of leaving, I would leave. When these folks told me to leave, I'd leave before they told me to leave. Simply because we've seen what happens sometimes when the call is made too late and you're trying to get out, especially from this area. Houston decides, oh, we're leaving too. Well, we're all stuck behind them. So have you a plan ahead of time? Where are you going to go to? Make arrangements if you've got kids or family away from here. Set something up with them. My wife and I have a couple travel trailers. Come hurricane season, I move them up to the hill country. I got a place to go if I could, but my wife and my kids and everybody else can. So boom, it's set up and you're ready to go. So just have you a plan and listen to the folks that you're going to hear from today. I'm not here to speak as an expert on it. I've been through a few, but they're the experts on it. Take advice from them. Pick the material up off the table and read it and understand it. Be prepared. That's the biggest thing that I can tell you. Have everything in a kit. I'm kind of a prepper. I'm kind of a crazy prepper guy, but I'm okay with that. Got tons of ammo and food and everything else, but I'm okay with that. And so I always have a go bag. A couple of them actually. My kids have go bags. I got go bags for my grandkids. Have some for your family too. Not necessarily because they're crazy like me, but because you're ready to go. When you have to go, it's easy to grab everything that's on that list, take with you, have it in that bag, ready to roll. You may have to add like your meds or something to it, but other than that, you got the rest of it ready. And that's all I'm going to say. Thank y'all very much and have a wonderful day.
Thanks so much, Joe. It's always great to have you here. Okay, City Council Member, District 6, Marie Robb.
Good morning, everybody. So good to see everybody here. I think the advice that Joe gave you is good advice, especially here since we're unprotected, although we continue to work towards the ultimate goal of 4 to 5 tunes, we don't have them. So it is important to evacuate when that notice comes in. One thing I will not leave the island. I will not stay at my house, but I will not leave the island unless it's a very large 4 or Category 5. We have had a designated evacuation plan because I like to be out and about as soon as possible after a storm, so I can look at what the neighborhoods look like, look at what the beach looks like. My priority is working for you. I represent, well, maybe not the people in Jamaica Beach, but you can continue to call me. I will help you when I can. But District 6 now goes from 69th Street to the west end of the island, and I am here to represent you. Some of the things that happened since the freeze, I'll do our lines people, Centerpoint, Keith Gray and I work hand in hand. They are doing a tremendous job of hardening our infrastructure. As you see the work that's going on Stewart Road. And let me tell you, and Brian Maxwell, who's here somewhere, can attest to the movement to get natural gas to the end of the island. That continues to move forward. So we are working on that, so we will have backup, have the capability of having backup generators. It's not a fast project. As we know, the coastal world is not a fast project. The gas world is equally as slow, in some ways even slower, but the quickest neighborhoods that will see action within, I would say, the next 6 months will be where the gas lines already exist, and that's to Jamaica Beach. And we can always suggest that more people in Jamaica Beach sign up for gas, which would help us in the efforts getting it further west. But we do have a number of new developments that are going in, and with that will assist us in getting gas. So we are always working to improve your infrastructure out here, and it is an ongoing progress. But once again, the most important thing, make sure you have your to-go bag packed, your medications, your animals, your things that are necessary. Make sure for when you can come back on the island, you have a backup of water. We all know what it was like when we had the freeze and the things that we were short on. That's the same thing when a hurricane happens. So be prepared. Leave your homes when the evacuation is called, and rest assured the city, our police, our constable, the county will do the best they can to make sure your homes are safe. And we are here to work for you. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Marie. Okay, we're still on the city area. Let's have Brian Maxwell, Galveston City Manager.
Howdy. I was telling my wife this morning before I'm leaving, I think this is my 12th year coming out here for this one. And it's good that there's so many new people. You're going to hear a lot of people here saying the same thing to you over and over again, reinforcing it. But I'm going to take a little different twist with you this morning. The world today is a lot different than it was in 2008 when the water got up to that level that you see on that pole right there. We're going to have a different outcome if we have a hurricane these days, and the biggest thing I can advise you to do is listen to your emergency management officials, but also pack your patience. We're living in a world of shortages right now. We have a shortage of garbage trucks. We have a shortage of police cars. We have trouble getting everything. I'm on a 3-year wait list for police cars. I'm on a 2-year wait list for garbage trucks. And that's not just me. And that's going to be our debris haulers. That's going to be everybody that we contract with. So, as much as technology has improved, and we know the Weather Service has gotten much better with hurricane predictions than they have in the past, it's going to be very important for everybody to pack their patience if we have a storm. We'll do our best to have every piece of equipment we have ready to go. But as we bring in our outside assistance, that always concerns me. Last couple of years, the concern was COVID. How do we evacuate people with COVID and keep them safe? As COVID has kind of waned or become less of an issue for us now, we're feeling the aftermath of that, the production side of everything. The other thing is that be cognizant of your neighbors. There's a lot of people that 2 or 3 years ago that could have afforded to evacuate that may not be able to afford to evacuate today. So help your neighbors if you can. It's a big difference sitting in traffic for 24 hours at $1.80 to $2 a gallon for gas versus $5 or $6 a gallon for gas. So if there's anybody that needs your help, reach out to them. But that's going to be my word for you today is patience. Hurricane recovery is never fast. We are still closing out Hurricane Ike projects at the city of Galveston today with FEMA and with the Texas Department of Emergency Management. So recovery is long term, and I'm very concerned that after a major hurricane, if we have another one here, that recovery could even be delayed further. So work with us, and also we will do our best to message everything that we have. If I know it, you're going to know it. You have one of the best council people we have out here that's going to keep you informed. Keith, does Marie have your phone number? Okay, yeah, just making sure. Chris wonders why you and her talk so much. But just everybody heed the warnings and listen, and just know that we're going to do our best to get you back out here as fast as we can. I'm a big believer in recovery, and that recovery really can't occur until you're here. And so it's our mission to get everybody back on the island as quickly as possible without the delays that we experienced in the past. But we want to do so in a safe manner. And we also want to create manageable expectations to know exactly what we're dealing with. So we're going to be communicating with you, but I just want to give everybody a heads up that those could be some issues that we're facing in the coming year. It's Father's Day weekend. I want to wish all the dads happy Father's Day. And y'all have a great weekend. And also, just heard TxDOT's got 2 lanes closed going out down. So if you got family coming in, enjoy them for the whole weekend. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Brian. We usually have a program, we break the program into hurricane planning and evacuation, and we come up with hurricane recovery and lessons learned. So right now, I'll give this to Clay, and he can introduce you to the hurricane planning and evacuation.
The presentation's about to happen is Dan Riley, National Weather Service, and several others that you can see on your agenda. We welcome Mr. Dick.
Good morning, everyone. I'm actually Jeff Evans, so I'm the meteorologist in charge for the National Weather Service Office. Dan is in Virginia on vacation right now, so filling in for him. All right, it's been a few years since I've been back here. I enjoy it. I get to wear sandals to work, so this is a great event for me. And I appreciate it. Can you hear me now? Yeah. I appreciate everybody coming out. It's real important messaging you're going to hear here. But when you look around, this is a small percentage of everyone around us. So we really need you to take what you learn here and take it back with you. Talk to your neighbors that aren't here, may not be quite as tuned in to the hurricane threats that we really face here. So I really appreciate you kind of being ambassadors for all the messaging here. The question I get asked more than anything else all year long is, am I going to get hit this year? Are we going to get hit this year? The reality of it is we don't know. It's just a harsh reality. We don't know. You have to think, yes, this is our year. We have not had a Category 3 hurricane or greater strike the island since 1983. For 40 years since Hurricane Alicia. That was the last Category 3 storm to impact the island. So we have not seen a windstorm since a lot of this development, a lot of this infrastructure, and a lot of this population has been put into place. So it's going to be a real challenge. I say we don't know if we're going to get hit or not. We are forecasting an above average year once again. So average numbers of hurricanes and tropical storms in the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, and the Atlantic Ocean are about 14 named storms. So named storms and tropical storm or greater. 7 hurricanes and 3 majors, Category 3 or greater. So that's average. So our number is going to be above that. We've been above that for several years now. 2020, not only were we above it, we set records, not only in the Atlantic Basin, but in the Gulf of Mexico. We really have been hyperactive in the Gulf of Mexico. We've been really, really fortunate. I don't know how people realize how fortunate we've been that we've just been missed by, Harvey to the south, Laura just to the east. We've had Tropical Storm Beta, we've had Nicholas, we've had some of these kind of smaller storms, but a really big storm we're still waiting on. This could be our year. We have to think it will be. The water temperature out there is really high. So that's what hurricanes like, hot water, and it's hot. Another thing I want to talk about is there's a perception that you're going to have a lot of notice. Hurricanes are different than tornadoes. Tornadoes come up and you don't have any notice. Hurricanes, we have days notice. Well, maybe or maybe not. I go back to Alicia. Alicia didn't even exist 72 hours before landfall. So, when we get serious about this, that's why we talk about you have to plan now. You're not going to be able to sit on the Weather Channel and watch this storm come in for days and days and days and make your decision and wake up the next morning and, hey, let's go to bed on this. You may not have that convenience. That's just the reality that we live in. Harvey, another Gulf developer, was a Category 4 landfall, just suddenly spun up. When they look back at the Category 5 storms that have impacted the United States, all but one were tropical storms or less 3 days out. So the rapid intensification is something that really catches people off guard and that we're most concerned about. The Hurricane Center has been very, very good with the track of their hurricanes. The modeling has gotten really good at the landfall locations for the most part. But the intensification in our modeling still has a lot we have to learn. I did some surveys with Hurricane Michael at the Florida Panhandle in 2018. And it was a Category 2 when people went to bed, they woke up, it was a 4. So if you're going to have these categories of when you're going to leave or not, you better put a buffer in there. Because you may go to bed at a 2 and think, I'm going to ride this one out and it's a 4, now I want to get out, now it's too late. So this is, I'm not here to scare anyone, I'm just talking about the realities of it. We may get missed this year, we can hope so, but we can't plan for that. So that's why I appreciate you all being here. And that's, like I said, spread this message around, make sure people know we have a lot of renters around here. They may not be clued in as well when it's time to go. So one thing, last thing, when you live down this part of the island, as they mentioned, you're not protected. So your threshold for leaving is going to be way lower than most other people. You have to know, maybe, whatever your threshold is going to be, perhaps if you're in the cone at day 3 or greater, I'm out. Whatever that should be. But if you're going to wait until the evacuation order gets hit, you're going to be driving with a lot of other people trying to get out of here. So anyway, I'll be around here if you have any questions for the weather service, if you have any questions about weather in general. Still no relief for the heat and rain for the next 7 to 10 days. The good news is there's nothing brewing out there. We don't have anything on the models that's bringing a tropical storm into us. Not yet. But as we get deeper into the season, our peak season is really that mid-August to mid-September. Every major hurricane that struck the island has been in that window. So that's one thing to watch. They start talking about back to school and football and fantasy football drafts and all that good stuff. That's when we want to really start tuning in to the tropics as well. So anyway, I appreciate being out here, being able to talk with y'all, and let me know if you have any questions.
Thanks so much, Steve. Really appreciate it. All right, let's have next one. We have our hurricane planning and evacuation. Mark Morgan, Galveston Fire Department Battalion Chief. Mark, great to have you again.
Good morning, Jerry. Thank you, everyone. Happy Father's Day weekend. I'm Mark Morgan, the Emergency Management Coordinator for the City of Galveston. Back here on my table where the DPS officers and TDM folks are at, I have some information that you'll need. What we'd like for you to do is to make yourself aware of everything that goes on this island when it comes to evacuations or preparations for any type of weather events, storms, floods, whatever it might be. We want you to sign up with one call at the City of Galveston. We don't send out alerts on everything with that, but when we do have some important information regarding evacuation timing, which we talked about earlier. Timing is very important because out here on the west end, 2 days, 48 hours before anything happens, you're going to have 2 foot of water over your streets. So you need to make sure you're prepared, and that will help you be prepared if you sign up for one call at the city of Galveston. The other thing that I wanted to touch on is generation. And if you're in a hardened structure, a big concrete building, and you have generation, that's great. You're pretty safe. But a generator will not make you safe during a storm. It will only make you comfortable until something happens. So don't let that generator make you feel safe. In the recovery part, the generator will help you out until the power can be turned back on. And as they spoke earlier, Keith Ray is working on our system, and they're making it hardened every day. And so there's less likelihood that we'll have outages, but we will have some. In town, a lot of the generators are on gas, just like they were talking about having natural gas. The problem with that is uprooted trees. So when the winds or the wind fields come through, they're going to uproot the trees. The gas lines will be pulled up out of the ground, and you won't have gas service to your generators. So don't let that part make you feel safe either, that you don't, because you have natural gas, you'll always have it. That's not really the case. So, but anyways, heed our warnings, and great to see everyone. Have a great, happy Father's Day weekend, and thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you so much. All right, next we have Kyle Baden from the City of Jamaica Beach Fire Chief.
Good morning and welcome. To follow on with what Mark said, the City of Jamaica Beach also has something similar to One Call. We have a blackboard system that you can sign up for. We will also be putting information out on the city and the fire department website, so you can access those. The fire department website is on the side of one of my trucks. The city website, you can get that out and the documentation. To follow on with what he said, when we call for an evacuation order, it's because we know it's going to be bad. As they said, the water line in here is about the top of the lockers. During Hurricane Ike was a Category 2 with a Category 4 surge. Once the water starts getting over the roads, it's impossible to get out. Cars won't drive through it. You can get, most cars you can get through about 1.5 to 2 feet of water. You're going to damage the car, but you can get through it. Once it gets above that, we can't get to you and you can't get to us. We will be evacuating the fire department if we see a severe event coming. Usually when we get to Category 2, high 2, 3 to 4, we'll be evacuating the town. We will make calls as long as we're able. But once the wind gets to a certain extent, we can't even do that. I can't put an aerial up at over 35 miles an hour, so I can't use my aerials. My pumpers can go a little bit longer, but when you're trying to fight a house fire in 50, 60 mile an hour winds, there's not much you can do at that point. So there comes a point where we can't protect your homes, we can't even get to you. So all we can do at that point is then get back in as soon as we can and start assessing the damage and getting things back up and running. On the generators, I will caution you, if you have a house generator, make sure it's installed by a professional so that it has an automatic disconnect, so that you're not back feeding into the lines that are down. If you have gas generator, if you do have a whole house generator, make sure your lower story, you turn those breakers off, because those breakers may be influenced by the water. Once electricity and water come together, you can get a fire. So the best thing you can do if you know your generator's going to come on is turn off anything in your house that may be compromised by the water. You don't want to have fires in the middle of high winds because that tends to cause fire to spread. So during Ike, we had one house that caught on fire, took 2 other houses with it before we could get it under control. So when you see us evacuating, that's the time that you should have been gone already. If you see us leaving, it's time to leave. That's all I have to say.
Well, thank you, Kyle. Appreciate it very much. Good recommendation. All right, next we have Mike Jones, Texas Department of Emergency Management. District Coordinator, Mike.
Thank you. I've brought reinforcements with me today. This is Lieutenant Paul Atkins. He is the DEC chair, and he is the lieutenant over Galveston and Missouri County. He has troopers and other resources, and him and I work very closely together in the DEC, which is our disaster district chair location, our EOC. Most thing that we can tell you, listen to your elected officials. They are in communication with the National Weather Service, with the plants, with the school districts, with the state, and we're all providing information to them that they're making these calls for evacuation. If they make that call for evacuation, you need to listen to it and you need to get out. Because once the winds get up to a certain speed, no responder is going to be coming to help you. And we will not be there until after the storm's over with. Now, from the state of Texas, the Texas Division of Emergency Management, we're continuing to practice. We work with our local officials from the cities, the counties, and we bring in the resources that are needed. We're here trying to set plans before we exercise. This week we did an exercise in Bryan College Station for hurricane. That seems like a long way up there. But there was 121 different agencies, and this here was dealing strictly with aircraft on evacuation. That's what we're planning for if we have to. So we do reach out. When you get ready to leave, take all your personal belongings, because we're not sure when you're going to be able to get back on this island, because when I-45 is blocked with debris, TxDOT is responsible for clearing that highway. And what they do, they put some big front end loaders up there in the front, and they open up a path. If it's $1 million boat, it gets pushed over to the side so we can open up that lane of traffic. And normally it's one lane. Lieutenant Atkins talked a little bit about the reentry part, but we are in here to support Jamaica Beach, and we're here to support, the county, the cities. And before this starts, we bring in a task force. And normally our task force is located on the west end of the beach, and it's down at Fire Station number 7 with the city of Galveston. They support these individuals. They'll stay here as long as they can, and they will be back as soon as we can. But make sure you get all this, because what you got to realize is that the state of Texas has to meet a threshold of $47 million before we can ask for federal assistance. The County of Galveston has to meet a $1.4 billion before they can ask for resources from the state and from the federal government. You think, well, that's not very much what we get. We turned in one storm, which was right at $70 million, and after FEMA went through it, they only told us we were eligible for $18 million. So you have insurance, that's very important, because if you don't have your insurance, all that the federals and all we can claim is your deductible. And if your threshold on your house where everything is not met, then that can be added. But all that in between that the insurance paying for is not claimed under FEMA or under the state of Texas. So it's very important to be prepared, get your house secure, and then listen to your local officials, because they're the ones making the decision on the mandatory evacuation. And if it is, you need to leave. Thank you. I can turn this over to Paul.
Good morning. My name is Paul Atkins. I'm in charge of the troopers that will be here in case of a storm. Our involvement is basically 3 phases: helping people get evacuated, doing patrols of the property that you leave, and then helping you get back in. How many had to deal with that process at Santa Fe Overpass coming back in after one of the storms? There's one. Well, it's definitely a process. We defer to Tiki, Galveston, and Jamaica Beach, obviously, to advise what the reentry program will be, and then we give it to troopers usually at these roadblocks, and we tell them what they're to do. That is not an exercise for them to be free thinkers. So if you don't meet the process to get on, you ain't getting on. And they had a lot of people that they got to hear who they were because that was the question they asked when they told them no. I don't know if I didn't have the credentials. I don't know if they let me by. But that's our main priority involving these storms. Obviously, with the construction, we have 3 evacuation routes. 2 of them are right now under extremely heavy construction. So if you're one that would leave, you might want to do that earlier because of that than later. And along with what the commissioner said about his preparing, I don't think anyone's ever been accused of over-preparing or evacuating too early. But if you get stuck because of that construction when the storm hits, that's probably the worst case scenario between leave or don't leave. There you're right in between, and that's what we don't want. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much for coming. Thank you. Okay, next we have Tim Tegens. He's the City of Galveston Director of Planning, but I didn't see him. Tim, are you here? No. Okay. All right, so let's move on to presentations on hurricane recovery and lessons learned. First one up is Kimberly Ganassi. She's with the Galveston Parks Board of Trustees, Chief Operating Officer. Kimberly.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Father's Day and happy Juneteenth. So at the Park Board, we defer to Chief Davis in the event of a storm. He is our incident command. We don't listen to our CEO. That's the only time we don't listen to her. We're listening to Chief Davis, who stays in touch with the City of Galveston and gives us direction. So once he gives us the all clear to come back onto the island, what you'll see my group doing, we're in charge of beach cleaning, beach projects, and the beach parks. You'll see us taking those trash cans and placing them back out on the beach. We do ask for patience with that process because at the height of the summer season, we have 4,000 trash cans from tip to tip of the island. We've got to remove every single one of them for a storm, and then we've got to put every single one of them back. We also have to return to the beach all of our lifeguard towers, and those things are mammoths. There are 32 of them. We can put 2 on a trailer, sometimes 1 at a time, and we have to load those back out onto the beach. But probably the thing that you would be most concerned about with what we do at the Park Board in my department is the cleaning of the beaches following a storm. So there are 2 different layers of cleaning the beaches post-storm. The first is going to be the major debris. So if we have a significant storm event and we have homes that are impacted and there's debris as a result of those homes being impacted by the storm, we are not the institutions that's responsible for responding to that. The state of Texas, the General Land Office, they have an agreement and they will come in, they'll send in groups to actually do that cleaning of debris. Where we come into play is that debris that washes up onto the shoreline. So you'll see us out there removing logs, removing anything that's washed up, cleaning up the debris, the trash that comes ashore. So we will come back to the island as soon as it is safe and as soon as we're able to support life here on the island. We want to make sure that our employees have a place to stay when they come in. We want to make sure that they have the resources that they need. But you'll see us here pretty quickly after the storm. Our group does not stay during the storm. We will evacuate the island, we'll evacuate our equipment as well if the threshold meets that. And one of the things that you heard today that I thought was really smart was, hey, it says it's going to be a Cat 2, plan for a Cat 3. At the Park Board with Chief Davis, we automatically do that. That is our protocol. If we are calling it in at a 2, if the state's telling us it's going to be a 2, we're preparing for a 3 because you never know when it might increase, and it does. It'll turn on you last minute. So if you've not been through one before, I've been through 4 of them. Listen to the folks that are giving you advice today. It's solid, good advice, and it's coming from a place of knowledge and experience, and you can't get any better than that. So thanks for your time.
Thanks, wonderful, Kimberly. Good to have you. Now you heard her mention that Peter Davis is the Chief of Lifeguards for the Parks Board of Trustees. And Peter, why not give us some good words.
Thank you, Jim. Hey, I know you're hearing the same thing over and over, so what I wanted to do is kind of contextualize this a little bit and talk a little bit, sort of personalize what this means. So when I was 17, I had a full head of hair, and I was watching chunks of the hotel that was up on the Pleasure Pier fall off during Hurricane Alicia, and I worked through that one, and I've been here for every single storm since then. So the reason I tell you this is not to brag or tell war stories. The reason I tell you this is because they suck. It's horrible going through these storms. They're really, really scary and they're really dangerous. And most of the storms I've been through aren't really, really big ones, including Ike. That was not a huge storm. And so my message to you is this. Your chief, me, and a bunch of these guys that you see around here have spent a lot of time in boats, driving around on your streets here in Jamaica Beach, pulling people out, bringing them up here to the highway so you can get off the island after a storm or before. This area is very, very low in Jamaica Beach, and I think it's really important that you consider that. In my family, we do is we plan on 3 evacuations a year. We budget for it, we just plan on where we're going. If it doesn't work out to be an evacuation, that ends up being a mini vacation for my family. And so what I would suggest is you kind of build that into your plan. You're going to be leaving several times a year, and that way you don't do what they did in Rita, where you got stuck on that highway for 12 hours, 18 hours, running out of gas, not having medicines, all that kind of stuff. That's really serious. And so, you know, the easy thing to do is to go before the evacuation's called, or here on the West End, when Brian or when Mark says this is a voluntary evacuation for the West End, that's a great time to go. That's a really good time to go because it's a really different deal here than behind the seawall. I'm your neighbor. I live down there at Bermuda Beach, and so we get out as quick as we can, or at least dating. I have to stay. The other part I'd like to talk about this is because we do have, this is part of lessons learned, the section that we're in. After Hurricane Ike, the fire chief and myself and the mayor sat down, and the mayor was Clyde Thomas, and she was saying, what did you need, what did you not have, and we're like, everything, and that kind of stuff. And so we ended up forming a group that involves all your public safety groups that deal with water in any capacity here on the island and in the county, called Galveston Marine Response. And that sits under the EOC, so Mark Morgan is the coordinator of that, and we all do our piece for that. That was designed to send teams out before, during, and immediately after storms. But even, none of these people are superheroes. And so we get off the street at 35 or 40 mile an hour winds just like everybody else does. And so, as Chief Babin said, and he said it really clear, there's a certain point when they can't do anything to help you, whether it's a fire or water rescue or anything else, medical emergency, and that kind of thing. And so that's just another piece of that puzzle, but it's important to remember. If you're off the island, away from the storm area, somewhere safe, you don't have to think about any of that, and you can just worry about re-entry and fixing your stuff up when you get back here. So I would really strongly suggest that you do that with my little bit of time here. I appreciate it. We're here patrolling your beaches as much as we can, and we work really closely with your fire department. I'd like to really compliment them and all they do for water response around the island. Thank you.
As usual, Peter, always great. Next we have Tino Pedraza, but I don't know if he's here. So okay. Anything else you want to add? And Rob Weineke, same with him, right? Okay. Well, Keith, you are up. Keith Gray, Centerpoint Energy, a lifesaver during tornado.
He's too nice to me. Marie said something like she's got me on speed dial, along with a bunch of other people that do some things like I do. But Maria, can you come up here and help me out a little bit? We don't just coordinate, we conspire sometimes. And this is about the time in our Hurricane Town Hall that Jamaica Beach does. We all need to do a few things.
Well, Keith is not only our wonderful electric lines guy who is hardening our infrastructure, putting in new poles and transformer, enforcing or reinforcing the transformers, putting in different connectors. Centerpoint is also a very generous and giving company, not to be confused with the unregulated guys who are charging you a lot right now with air conditioning. Keith is the lines guy, and he has a surprise for all of you.
Why don't you all stand up and stretch? And while you do that, look underneath your chair. There's 8 Walmart gift certificates out there.
And
pick the chair up.
it's easiest to pick your
Raise
chair
your hand
up.
when you get one.
We got one. Woo! We got one. Check the empty chairs that are by you. They're under your chair. Easiest to pick them up. And could we call Kyle Braden up, please? Kyle, are you here? And then he has generously donated to the fire company here another $100 gift card. So have we found all 8 cards?
There's one on the very, very back. You go ahead. Good. And she said another $100. Well, we are public utilities, so yours is only $25. I apologize. But if they give me a raise, I'll get it up there, right? So, thank you, Marie. My name is Keith Gray, and everybody has the ability to either put it in their phone or write. I'd like to start out with giving you my cell number. And that number is 713-569-1652. And if you weren't able to get it, just ask the neighbor because there's somewhere, but it's 713-569-1652. Now, you can certainly call me 24/7, but please don't call me to say in day 2 of an EOP event, are my lights on? Because I'm kind of busy, and I'm getting all that communication to Clay, Brian Maxwell, and 29 other cities in Galveston, Missouri County. And I also want you to remember our main call line is 713-207. This is the easy part. 2222. 713-207-2222. And now what I do. What I do is a couple of things. I make relationships so people can feel comfortable calling me and coming up to me when they have an issue. I also lead a team of designers that are called service consultants. They're professional. Most of them are construction science engineers, things like that. And they design all of these lines and the new technology that I'm about to tell you about on improving engineering standards. And then I have the linemen, right? And they go out and they build and maintain your power lines. And as a few of the folks before me said, we have been doing a lot of work in Galveston. And it's a direct result of, we were going to do it anyway. Even if the state told us to go out there and do some grid hardening, we've been doing that since before Ike. But the new technology that's out there now, the fiberglass arms, the polymer tallboy insulators, and we're starting to introduce fiberglass posts that have a higher wind tolerance, they have a higher saltwater contamination tolerance, and they just do better. You know, after 2 years after I got a phone call in Santa Fe. I live in Santa Fe too, outside the city limits. And they said, we've got problems, and it was during February, but we had a cold front come in that produced a sleet, and when sleet hits our power lines, sometimes it'll hit it and not like form icicles, but form a cover around it. And all you need is a 3 mile an hour wind, and those rascals will go up and down like that. And when I came over to Causeway to start organizing and getting these things taken care of, all you can see is blue flashes over Jamaica Beach and everything on the west end. So those fiberglass arms, because we had steel, what we call turkey wings, ripped out of the wood posts, and they were just causing more galloping conductors, is what we call it. But the fiberglass arms we had up at that time, we had one break, and we didn't have any of them give up. So it's really great technology, and we're inundating it. We just can't do it overnight. So, but I spend outside our normal reliability programs, I spend anywhere from $1.5 to $2.2 million in excess of doing nothing but going out and doing proactive reliability. And we do it mostly on our circuits, right? And I will continue to do that, and I've set that trend. Even when I took a 4-year hiatus, went to governmental affairs and procurement, they were still doing that. So it's ongoing. I've got it to where it'll be ongoing after I'm gone, and hopefully you will see the difference. Substation, we lost a substation, Moody substation, about 4 weeks ago. And it was in the heat, and it was difficult to do switching around because we have redundancy and we're supposed to be able to switch around. Well, I have a bunch of embarrassed engineers in Houston because a couple of things took place. They kept us from doing that switching, and it extended your outages if you were off the Moody Garden substation, circuit. So those are the things I do. I go in and I embarrass engineers. I said, how this happened, this is crap. We better not have it happen again. What do we do so it doesn't have to happen? I don't care how much it costs, because I don't. It's not coming out of my pocket. You're the ratepayers. You pay us. And we have a certain amount of money that we're going to go out there, we're going to spend on hardening our infrastructure, and that's what we do. So we do that, and then it's obvious. You can see the transmission, folks, right? They're just going from wood to either steel or concrete, and that has a greater reliability or wind resistance as well. So, but it's easy for them because they have like 1/8 of the poles that I have now, right? So they can do it in a few years, right? But still, they do a great job, and that's how we, not just, you know, before hurricane season starts hardening, but we do it year round, right? And if I miss something, it's because we're not perfect. So that's why you have my number. I want you to call me. I want you to point things out, and I want to fix it or improve it. So, yes, bring us that.
So another thing that will keep you from calling Keith or calling me or looking for a post somewhere to see if the electricity is back, and we have done this for years, I think, from a long time since Judge Dunham Keith, is we keep a phone line, a landline at our house that we really don't use except for the alarm, and for when we want to know if the electricity is back, we have an old-fashioned answering machine on it, and you call your house, and if the answering machine answers, your lights are on. So that is one of the easiest ways to know. And then the other thing that's very helpful for me when I'm driving around and trying to assess whether lights are on in a neighborhood or not, I suggest you leave at least one outside light on. Then I can tell by just driving through a neighborhood where we have lights back and where we don't. So that's another way you can do it. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. So Marie reminded me of something else we're doing. So Galveston has 6 substations on it, right? And the farthest west is West Bay Substation. You can see it's elevated a little bit, things like that. But its only redundancy is miles away at Stewart, right? So what we're doing, and I thought it was going to be in 2022, but last week I found out, sorry, I didn't know this, but we're going to do it first part of 2023. They are doing the engineer on it. We're going to tie West Bay Substation with Velasco on the other side of San Luis Pass. That's going to give us more redundancy down here, and also help the Velasco folks on the Water Highway. So I hired on when I was 21, year before Alicia. That was a lot of fun. I was down here on the West End, and I've been in hurricanes ever since. And I'm going to tell you this. To tell your father and mother, especially when you're still living in a house, because I'm saving up for marriage and a house myself, don't even get your tails out of here. I said a little rough with that because this was the 3rd time I told them. I can't tell you how much, even sometimes in a category 1, get out, have a little vacation, right? My wife just retired, she's a nurse, and I have a bug out back for her. It's a little chest like that. It's got money in it, it's got water in it, it's got blankets. All of her favorite pillows that she thought disappeared when she's got to me, she thinks I took them to the deer lease, they're all in there. Because she needs to be prepared to sleep in her vehicle, she needs to be prepared to do a lot of things, right? Because I can't leave and I won't. I may relocate, and we will, you may see our trucks going over the causeway to evacuate, because it's no sense keeping our resources down here, both employees and equipment, if we're going to have it damaged. So we evacuate. Usually our first evacuation is to Jack Brooks Park in Hitchcock or Santa Fe High School, but we have some farther west and some farther north. Joe Giusti and the county has been kind enough to give us staging sites. And this area, we have Moody Gardens. You can thank John and Sam if you're over at Moody Gardens, and you can thank Joe Giusti for our staging site in Romania too. They really help us out because they know if they help us, they're helping you. We have mitigation plans. What happens if we have such a bad hurricane or something happens that, I don't know, a barge breaks loose and damages the causeway? How am I going to get my equipment back? Well, that's real easy. Brett with the port, he's already agreed to tell us that we can pull our barges, because we have barge companies. I'll launch at Texas City or wherever I can launch, and they will barge our trucks and our resources and our materials to the island right there at the port, and we can start work. In these staging sites, each one of them can hold at least 1,000 personnel, which means divide that 250 crews that can be working on getting this island restored. So, I mean, we're ready. I feel good about it. Our supply chain is finally catching up. When I was in procurement, when I took my hiatus, we had supplies for a Cat 5 hurricane, not just for Galveston, but for our whole footprint for Center Point Energy. Supply chains are a lot different right now, and we ought to have that very soon. And I think we'll be more than prepared, or I feel that we're going to be more prepared for a storm than people initially thought because of our supply chain. So with that, if there's any questions. Well, I'll be over here giving away all that cheap stuff if y'all want to come by and see me. So, thank you for having me.
Just a quick short comment from me. I will attest to the fact that he answers his phone, because I've been out fishing with him and out duck hunting with him, and he's answering his phone. So Keith will answer his phone all the time. Also, real quick, something I forgot to mention in my presentation, it still bugs me. During hike, I was at the Emergency Operations Center at the San Luis, listening to the call takers. People in Bolivar were calling in once the storm was here, begging and pleading to get out. We couldn't. Some of them are no longer with us. So, heed the warnings.
Thanks. Thanks for the recommendations, Joe. And you have to believe Keith Gray. It'll be a sad day when he retires, because every storm that we've ever had, he is accessible, answers his phone, and he'll get people out there to help him. So Keith, don't retire yet, okay? Okay. All right, let's go on. Robert Farrington, Texas Gas Service. One gas. Robert? I didn't see him here. Robert's not here. And Manuel Varela, Texas Department of Insurance. He retired? Okay. David Lawson from TWIA. Oh, TWIA? Well, I know he's here. He's always been a godsend to Michael Ruiz, Galveston Insurance Associates. Michael, always so great to have you.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, folks, for coming today. I'm going to try to keep it brief. I know it's a little bit hot in here. First, we'll talk about the three main insurance policies you should have in your home. First is going to be your fire and property insurance. That's going to protect your home. Like we said, during hurricanes, sometimes these houses do catch on fire due to electrical issues and so forth. As you guys saw during the freeze, it does protect your home from freeze damage, water damage, and also theft issues that may occur during hurricanes. The next policy is going to be your windstorm policy. I like to think of that as from the top of your home down. If you have damage to your home that's from your roof, if your roof's ripped off, if there's shingles ripped off, and water's coming into your home from the top down, that's windstorm. If If you have water coming in through your windows because the window's broken, your siding's ripped off your house, that's windstorm. Any ensuing damage from that damage, that's windstorm. Very important endorsement to make sure you have on your windstorm policy is called wind-driven rain. Wind-driven rain. So we see that a ton in these smaller hurricanes like Nicholas just a couple months ago, when your house doesn't have any actual damage, no windows broken or so forth, that water's hitting your windows at 60, 70 miles an hour for a couple hours at a time. As I'm sure some of you experience, that water finds its way in, damages your sheetrock, damages your flooring, so on and so forth. So that's wind-driven rain. Make sure you have that endorsement on your policy. The last thing that we all know is flood insurance. Flood insurance is going to be rising water, specifically down here mainly for storm surge. So as we all know, not much of your building is covered below the first living level. But in a catastrophic scenario, you know, that we did have homes during Hurricane Ike with just 8-9 feet of storm surge, took the home down. You do need flood insurance, so make sure you have that. Really, really big topic in the insurance market right now is the cost of inflation and the value of your home. Just 12 months ago, if you had, let's just call for round numbers, if you had a $100,000 home, you could not build that same home right now today. It would cost you probably more closer to $120,000 to $130,000, right? So we're not only talking inflation from a building material standpoint, we're talking inflation on labor prices too. So you need to make sure you take a look at your policies as we enter hurricane season, talk with your insurance agent, make sure you're insured to a proper value to make sure you can get the same home that you have today after hurricane season. Last thing I want to talk about is preparing your home for a claim, for a major hurricane. So before you leave, we want to make sure that we have photos of the exterior home from all 4 sides. That way that you can prove there was a home there when you came back. Sounds morbid, but it is what it is, right? Additionally, can't repeat it. Photos of the exterior home, all 4 sides, so that you can prove exactly what you had before the storm. And then the next thing you're going to want to do is walk inside your home. The easiest thing to do is turn on the video. Just walk from room to room to room to room, just to show your contents that are inside your home so you can prove what was there in each room if you come back and have a major loss scenario. It would be really helpful if you can create an itemized list of the contents you had inside your home, your furniture, your TVs, and an estimated value of those items. The reason we're doing this is to make the adjuster's job as easy as they can when they come to your home to adjust your loss. If you think about it, these adjusters have thousands of other adjustments. The easier you can make their job, the quicker you're going to get paid. That's just the brass tacks of it, right? Now, if you do have damage of your home and you're repairing it, you have every right as an insured to prevent further damage to your home. So if you have wet flooring, wet sheetrock, and so forth, you can get all that out of there because you don't want mold, okay? We want to make sure we're taking pictures of all that before you rip it out, and just leave a small slither of each of it in each room to prove that the damage was there. And then when you get that debris outside your home, just create itemized piles so the adjuster can come by and see what you pulled out of your home. They can see the damage that was there because you left a little bit for them, and that's going to make your claims process much, much easier. So I'll stick around in the back if anybody has insurance-related questions. Thanks so much for coming out. Have a great Father's Day weekend.
Michael, thank you so much. Always great to have you. Great information that you always present. All right, we have Odarius Turner from CertPro. Odarius, okay. Welcome. CertPro.
Yes, like I said, Odarius with CertPro. I'm also here with Tom Norlander, our owner of the CertPro of Galveston Island and Lake Jackson. We also have a franchise in Houston as well, which makes us available as far as equipment and timely available for when after something happens. Today you've heard, what to do before, what to do during, but and a little bit of what to do after from the insurance agent. Sure, he's not paying attention. It's okay. But we work directly with a lot of insurance companies, so we are able to, send everything to them directly as far as what's affected, what we had to remove, what needed to be removed, what was dried, and if it is, and when it got dried. Being that we are local, we have all the equipment, team members available for anything to happen right after the storm. It's very important to know who we are. I hope you don't have to call us, but if you do, I'm probably the first person you want to call, next to all these guys here. Of course, they're going to keep you safe. I'm just going to get your home back into the position it was before. Some important things, some things that we take care of, restoration. We specialize in fire, water, and mold restoration, catastrophic storm response, move-outs and content restoration, electronics and equipment, document drying, contents claim, inventory service, which is very important. If you lose something that's very valuable to you, we do take a picture and recording of that item so that it can be taken care of by your insurance. That's basically what he said earlier, protect your investment. We're there to help you protect your investment. Moving those harmful materials, the sheetrock, the wet insulation, all of that is going to create mold. And unfortunately, most insurance companies don't cover mold. So not only will you have to pay for your house to be remodeled and then torn apart completely, but then you have to get mold mitigation, and that takes a long time, unfortunately, and it's detrimental to your health. So, like I said, I'm Darius with Serpro. If you guys have any questions, we're right over here. And hopefully, like I said, you don't need us, but if you do, just let me know.
Thanks, Darius. And please, at the end of the meeting, please visit the booths that we have on the side. There's some great information. Okay, Andre Mitchell, he's the Assistant Police Chief for the City of Galveston Police Department. Andre?
Hello. Thank you. So I just recently got promoted, and I got thrown out here to give the hurricane preparation for Jamaica Beach. So what I want to talk about is the reentry program. We're going to be set up in between, I believe, exits 5 and 7. We work real close with DPS. We're going to have other representatives, Jamaica Beach Police Department, the constables. We're going to have the Sheriff Department out there also working and manning it with us. And reentry is going to be based off of tiers. The first tier is going to be the emergency response tier. Anybody that's coming in to help with search and rescue. The very tier 1 is going to be the immediate mass care and then damage assessment. People like the American Red Cross, Texas Salvation Army, and Texas Baptist Men, most other disaster relief workers classified in tier 1. The next tier is going to be tier 2, restoration of essential services, point of distribution, and other support services. That's going to be people with the health care professionals, the local EMD, and people that have like the big box banking institution, fuel providers, pharmacies, and grocery stores. Big box providers include people like Home Depot, Walmart, and Target. Tier 3 will be business operators that were not allowed reentry under the tier 2, and residents. Business operators, property owners, and residents should be prepared to provide appropriate identification and credentials and proof of residency as appropriate. And after tier 3, general population. We're going to work very fast in order to get everyone back home. We're not trying to keep people out and see what kind of damage they have or to check on their businesses or their property, but we will try to get them quick back home and into their business as quickly as possible. All right, thank you.
Thanks so much, Andre. Appreciate it. Now, next we'll hear from our Constable, Jimmy Fullen, Galveston County. Good morning. Happy Father's Day to all of y'all. I'm going to make mine short and sweet. You've heard from all the experts over here. They've told you what to do, how to prepare. Now here I come. Y'all get y'all's phones out, get your paper out, and write this phone number down. Because if you didn't hear their warnings, you're going to be calling me to come rescue you. So here's my cell phone number. 409-771-3917. And I answer it 24 hours a day. Your constable's office, it covers all the way down to the San Luis Pass Bridge and then back up on the mainland. We have 6 4x4 vehicles at all times, and we now have a 5-ton military high water rescue truck. I hope we don't have to use that, but please take their warnings and we won't have to deploy that 5-ton military truck. I've got some business cards with my email and my cell phone in case you didn't have something to write it down with. So raise your hand and I'll be more than happy to bring you a business card. Y'all have a great day. Thank you. Thanks so much again for being coming here. Well, before I turn this over to the mayor, I want to thank Brad Hyman in putting this meeting together. He is the city administrator and the chief of police for Jamaica Beach. And he has been a huge factor in making this thing a success. With that, let me turn it over to Mayor Clay Lawrence, City of Jamaica Beach.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming out. Just a quick reminder, and something that I've really started to realize is just because something's a category 2, and you know it's coming in, that surge can be a category 3 or category 4. So, and that is very important, and that's something that's probably one of the most overlooked issues with our storms out there, because they can increase in 24 hours and can go from category 2 to category 3 or higher. Something that was sort of mentioned, but really needs to be addressed, is you need to figure out what you can do after the storm. That's very important. I mean, are you going to have water, food when you start coming back onto the island? There's a lot of things to process. My suggestion, and I know everybody always gives me a hard time, these are the notes. I grew up around here. This is how many notes I've written just sitting here listening. Make you some notes, because when you get under duress and start getting pressure, you need to refer back to your checklist. And this is the best way to do that. Something else most may not think of is during, before I kept watching it. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my word, for 3 days before, I've got most of my stuff done. But now what about my parents sitting there at Clear Creek Village in Mid-City? I spent the next 48 hours, this no exaggeration, with no sleep, boarding their home up, packing what I could up in a little U-Haul, getting all their most important things out, and then heading north. And that trip northward, the storm was going to be in, I believe, that evening or the next morning, but we left the day before, which was several days too late. But the traffic was horrendous going. And I don't recall, because I just want to put the bad memory out of my mind, but it seemed like forever just to get to the north side. And then from there, all the way to Dallas was literally bumper to bumper. I'd never experienced anything like that in my life. So please be mindful. The earlier the better. Make a vacation out of it, even if it ends up not being anything. Enjoy the sights wherever you go, Corsicana, Nacogdoches, Shreveport, wherever you may end up. Actually, I probably head northwest. So, yeah, San Antonio, Laredo, anywhere but the truck. Because you also got to remember, they curve and they go back northeast. So just try to stay out of that alley. I'd like to, finishing this up, I'd like to thank Chief Brad for putting this together, like Mr. Jerry just spoke of. Our fire department, all the volunteer fire departments who came out and set all this up, took their own personal time yesterday evening. Please give them a thanks. And then lastly, I'd like to thank Way West Grill, which is just right down here in the Strip Center, for providing the pizzas and food that is about to be served. So please help yourself, and Godspeed, everybody. Godspeed.
Well, let's hope no hurricanes, and we'll see you again next year, okay? Thank you so much, City of Jamaica Beach again.